For being here today and good afternoon. I will begin, as usual, by expressing my thanks to all Canadians who are helping our country manage through this challenging experience. Thanks to you, your respect for public health guidance, and your genuine concern for your fellow citizens, we are beginning to see a gradual easing of restrictions across much of this country. Sans aucun doute, nous avons fait d'énormes
Without question, we have made tremendous progress in stopping the spread of COVID-19, and we must remain vigilant.
et c'est grâce à
And it
vos
is because of your efforts that we are now in a position to discuss how best to safely restart our daily routines and the economy.
From the outset, my department has been focused on aggressively purchasing personal protective equipment in a highly competitive global environment. At the same time, we at Public Services and Procurement Canada have made great strides in diversifying and establishing multiple supply chains in order to better adapt to global volatility surrounding much sought after commodities. We have also seen businesses from across this country answering the call to help supply life-saving PPE, much of which is being made right here at home to fight COVID-19. We have signed 55 contracts with domestic manufacturers, and 44% of our overall contracts by dollar value are with Canadian manufacturers. Companies such as Jacobs and Thompson of Toronto, Westport Manufacturing of Vancouver, and Stanfields of Truro, Nova Scotia have retooled their manufacturing lines, rehired staff, and created new jobs to give an economic boost to regions across Canada while providing key supplies. These efforts have been integral in our fight against COVID-19. Because of these efforts and our two-pronged procurement approach, we are seeing results. This morning, our 101st chartered flight carrying PPE arrived home. To date, our government has received face shields in the amount of $36.7 million, gloves in terms of pairs, $185 million, gowns, nearly $46 million, hand sanitizer in excess of 11 million liters, N95 and KN95 respirator masks, $50.6 million, surgical masks, $265 million, ventilators, 409. All of these supplies are in addition to those procured directly by provinces and territories for their respective healthcare systems. While our previous reporting has focused on those supplies destined for frontline healthcare workers, these numbers today are a reflection of the total amount of supplies received to date, a point on which I will expand further right now. In particular, what I would like to do today is to set forth the various streams of personal protective equipment with which our department at Public Services and Procurement has been engaged. First and foremost, our top priority has been and continues to be procuring equipment and supplies for our frontline healthcare workers that we have ordered on behalf of the Public Health Agency of Canada for provinces and territories. We are and will continue to be committed to their health and safety. Of course, healthcare workers are not the only essential workers in need of these goods. Afin de redémarrer notre économie,
To restart our economy, millions of Canadian workers in key sectors of essential services must be able to return to work safely while protecting themselves, their colleagues, and the Canadians they serve.
Second, as the government department responsible for federal procurement, PSPC is also engaged in ensuring that federal departments and agencies have the PPE that they require to safely reopen. In this procurement stream, we are purchasing a wide range of PPE for non medical face coverings and face shields to disinfectants and hand sanitizer to support everyone from Parks Canada to border services. As more businesses and other organizations reopen, demand for PPE, non medical masks, and disinfection products to keep workers safe is increasing. And while the market is catching up to this demand, finding PPE can still pose challenges. Last week, Prime Minister Trudeau announced the Safe Restart Agreement, a federal investment of more than $19 billion to help provinces and territories safely restart their economies and make our country more resilient to possible future waves of this virus. I am pleased to announce today a third stream for PPE. In addition to PPE for frontline healthcare workers and other government departments, that we call the Essential Services Contingency Reserve. This reserve is part of the Safe Restart Agreement's commitment to supporting essential services requiring access to PPE. This will be a temporary reserve of critical supplies and equipment that can be purchased at cost by essential services sectors that have been unable to acquire these items elsewhere. J'ai le plaisir d'annoncer aujourd'hui.
I am pleased to announce today that we are establishing an Essential Services Contingency Reserve as part of the agreement's commitment to support essential services requiring access to PPE. This will be a temporary reserve of critical supplies and equipment that can be purchased at cost by essential services sectors that have been unable to acquire these items elsewhere.
The contingency reserve that I am announcing today will bridge urgent short-term gaps for eligible organizations and businesses to avoid any significant disruptions in services that they provide to Canadians. In many situations, organizations can now source the PPE they need. However, there will be situations where existing sources of supply are simply unavailable, delayed, or disrupted. In those cases, the Essential Services Contingency Reserve stands as an emergency backstop. We have teamed up with SCI Logistics and its network of warehouses across the country to fulfill online orders from eligible organizations and businesses that find themselves urgently requiring a short-term supply of PPE. SCI is the warehousing subsidiary of Canada Post, and it will leverage Purolator for deliveries. Detailed information on who is eligible to use the reserve and how to apply will be made available shortly on our website. Essential services workers across the country are committed to Canadians, and we are thankful for their contributions. Through the Essential Services Contingency Reserve, the government is making sure that these organizations can continue to operate. Canadians can rest assured that they will continue to receive the essential services on which they depend as Canada continues to recover from this pandemic. The Essential Services Contingency Reserve breaks new ground in terms of the broad provision of PPE, and I am so pleased to be able to announce it here with you today. In closing, while the nature of the pandemic has been changing, we must ensure that Canada is prepared for any eventuality in the short and the long term. That has been our strategy from the beginning, and it continues to be our strategy today. We will continue to work with our partners in industry, as well as those providing essential services, in order to get through this pandemic together. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Maintenant, nous pouvons avoir vos questions.
Now we welcome your questions.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Doctor. Oui, nous commencerons une période de questions maintenant.